One of the hardest things to do to galvanize this group is, to do it with a guy who's only been on campus for a couple of years, in Kalen DeBoer. What is it about him that has gotten these guys to kind of galvanize together so quickly and so well? Because when you go to the portal and you bring guys in, we've seen it. It's rocks the boat in a lot of different areas. How has he been able to do that? And what is it about Kalen DeBoer that got guys to rally in this way?
Well, it's funny you mentioned DeBoer because the way you set that up, I thought you were going to go Michael Penix's direction.
Yeah.
But that's the point, right? I mean, that's the whole point. The whole point is what DeBoer has been able to do is that he is so about culture first and foremost. And because of his previous relationship with a guy like Michael Penix back at Indiana, he just knew that not only would Michael be a great fit on the field in terms of the scheme and the style of play that they wanted and how he could throw the ball down the field. He knew he had what it took if he could play an entire season healthy, which was the only X factor. But he also knew off the field, this guy was going to be a leader. He was going to be a great guy in the community. He's done great stuff with his NIL. He's really donated to a lot of great causes in the area. And so I think that's what DeBoer has done. And then even though I don't think he would bristle so much at the CEO label, I think he does understand that when it comes to the organizational piece and just bringing all the right people together to make this thing work, he's as good at it as I've seen. And I've covered 6 different coaches at Washington. And it's just one of those things where if you've got the right people around you and you just let them do their jobs, and it's kind of like what the coaches want of their players. Yeah. They just want their players to do what their assignment is. Just be assignment sound. Don't do more than what you're being asked to do, and trust in the guy next to you that he's going to do his job. And that's what he's done with his coaching staff. And it's been trickled down. I don't know if there's a trickle down economics version of coaching, but that's what it's been. It starts with the board and it works all the way down through the coaches to the players.
There's something about this team and with Michael Penix Jr. and Rome Odunze. I say this all the time that the most impressive part about Penix in Odunze is everybody in the damn stadium knows where the ball's going, and nobody can still stop it when it comes to crunch time and at the end of the game. We've seen now some of these mock drafts this week finally pushing Michael Penix Jr. up into that first round. We know what the knocks are, the injury history, or that he's 24 years old, but what makes Penix so special, as you've covered him day to day and you've seen kind of his growth over the last 2 seasons?
Well, I think, first of all, you mentioned Rome Odunze. If you also look at Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Giles Jackson, Jeremy Bernard, all the guys that he surrounded himself with, Jack Westover, Devin Culp at tight end, Dylan Johnson at running back, he's surrounded by great talent, and he's not afraid to be the distributor. He understands that he's only as good as the guys that are around him. And then also the offensive line, who just won the Joe Moore Award, which essentially is their Heisman Trophy, as being the best offensive line in the country. None of this would be possible without those guys. Mm-hmm. And he fully acknowledges that every single time. Every single time it's brought up on how good he's doing, he's like, hey, I'm no good unless these guys are doing their jobs. So it's all the guys around him. But he's also become the vocal leader that he wasn't necessarily when he first got to Washington. And that is one of the critical pieces that DeBoer has said has kind of defined Penix's rise kind of up the charts in terms of what he has needed to do to take his game to the next level. And it's been that vocal leadership piece. When he talks, when Penix talks, it's like E.F. Hutton back in the day. When he talks, people listen. And everybody is listening to Michael Penix right now, because when you have as much success as he has, and when he is literally talking the walk, you gain so much respect in the locker room for that. And he hasn't made it bigger than himself. And the other thing too, guys, there has been this piece of just being the underdog, being kind of downtrodden a little bit, it's like the Johnny Atlas stuff when the sand gets kicked in your face and you go from the 90-pound weakling to the buff dude that can handle himself. I think it's this team rallying around Michael Penix because he didn't get the Heisman Trophy. And when he has a moment like he had in the Sugar Bowl, when he goes for 430, 2 touch, and everyone sees nationally what this guy is capable of doing, and all you hear from the talking heads and the pundits and everything else from ESPN on down, they're all like, I wonder if maybe we made a mistake in giving Jaden Daniels the Heisman. And that sucks for Jaden Daniels because he absolutely deserves the Heisman. But when you hear that kind of talk, I think it just fuels the fire for the guys around Penix, and they're rallying for him. They're going to go to war for this guy. And that's just kind of the stuff that he engenders because of the way he plays and who he is as a person.
As this you look at this matchup, I mean, you look at Washington's offense and whether it's quarterback, receiver, or the offensive line that was a Joe Moore Award winner, offensively, it checks all the boxes when you go position group by position group. The only one you give Michigan is Blake Corum in that running back room, which is really special at Michigan. On the defensive side of the ball, though, what do you look at as the key to this game for Washington? They've played physical brands of football against whether it's Oregon or Utah or Oregon State, who try to, manhandle you up front, and they've come out on top of all three of those opponents, and for Oregon, twice. But what do you think is the factor on defense for the national championship game as you start matching up UW's defense against the Michigan offense?
Well, without going into real specific matchups in terms of running backs, linebackers, or receivers, DBs, that kind of thing, I will say two things. First of all, I think this defense has really grown together and gotten better as the season has gone on because they have found the moments that matter in order to make the biggest plays that define these games, like Elijah Jackson making the play to bat down the pass on the very last play of the Sugar Bowl, for instance. Mish Powell having the pick six where basically he goes the distance against Arizona State to pull that win out of the fire. There have been those kind of moments, and it hasn't just been the offense that has dictated how this team has done. The defense has really risen up and have made plays, and they held Oregon State to 20 points. They held Washington State to 21 points. They have been able to find ways to make it happen. And the other thing is it goes back to what I was saying about the guys rallying around Penix because they feel he's been disrespected. I think there's a lot of guys on this team that feel their defense has been disrespected, and the chip on the shoulder continues to build and build and build. And when you see guys like Braylon Trice and the kind of the moments that he had in the Sugar Bowl with a couple sacks and really causing havoc on Quinn Ewers, I go back to a great tweet I saw earlier this morning from David Pollack, one of the ESPN analysts that played at Georgia. And he said basically, you can argue and debate forever what you think are the key players are if you were going to build kind of your team that you would want. He goes, but I would start with quarterback, receiver, edge, and tackle. And he goes, so if you have the right tackles, the right edge guys, so basically edge guys are your quarterback. And he goes, right now, where are the best players at Washington?
Edge,
quarterback, tackles, edge, and receiver. He goes, you've got legitimately 4 first-round draft picks that could be at all 4 of those positions. So the bottom line is when you look at that edge play with Braylon Trice, you got ZTF on the other side. He's going to cause problems. They really need to go ahead because we've seen it all year long, guys. They have gone heavy in the middle where they'll go MJ Ale, they'll go Tuli Latui-Gasanoa, they'll go Fa'atui Tuatele. They'll bring in a lot of bodies. So if Michigan wants to mash and they want to go body on body, mano a mano on that offensive line and try to bury Washington at the line of scrimmage, Washington will be up for that challenge. Will they be able to stop them? No, they won't be able to stop them. But can they contain them enough to force J.J. McCarthy to have to win the game? And can Washington jump out to a lead? And so Michigan is now playing from behind, and maybe they're going to have to throw the ball more. So there's things that are involved here. But when it comes down to the defense, I think it's those two things. They've gotten better as the moments have as the season's gone on, with big moments that have defined them in the last few games, and the fact that I think they feel incredibly disrespected.
Going to the Sugar Bowl, going to New Orleans, it's an expensive trip. What do you feel the presence of Washington fans are going to be like in Houston on Monday night? Because it's hard to go those back-to-back weeks with those trips and going so far.
Oh yeah, no question about it. And the same goes for Michigan too,
Yeah,
right, guys?
absolutely.
I mean, it's the same thing. What I would say is that I've seen comments where people had maybe held up and maybe hoped that Washington could get to the national championship game so they could put all their money on going to Houston. So there's that. And then I think there's just a huge alumni following and a huge former players following that, like, members of that 91 team are going. A lot of recent former players are going. Even players from other sports. Isaiah Thomas is going. I saw Danielle Laurie from the softball team that won the world national championship back in 2009. She's going, and I'm sure. And she said she's got teammates that she's meeting up with in Houston. This is going to be a massive party, I think, either way for Washington fans and former athletes. I just think that it's because it's been 33 years since they've had an opportunity to do something like this, in terms of getting to a game that could really define whether they win a national championship or not. But the reality is they've never really been here. I mean, even that 91 team, it's not an undisputed national championship as much as they would like to have it. And I think if they played Miami, they'd kill them. But we'll never know, right? Mm-hmm. But this game is for all of it. And it will be undisputed. If Michigan wins, they're undisputed. If Washington wins, they're undisputed. All questions will be answered Monday night, and that's the way it should be. So I think for this moment, they're going to have all the stars aligned, and they're going to have as many fans in the seats as they can, because they've sold out their allotment. I think it was around 20,000, and so they should have a huge following.
You can follow him on Twitter at Chris_Fetters. He is the editor of dogmen.com, Dogmen 24/7. Always appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much. Come Monday night, there's no sharing anything. It's going to go either back to Seattle or up to Ann Arbor for the national title. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Okay, have a great day, guys.
There he is, Chris Fetters, dogmen.com. There's a ton on the line. We're gonna dive into this game a little bit more as we go on in the show, because you look at the matchups on both sides of the ball. I mean, offensively, you check the boxes, and you just go, if you were just to go position group by position group, outside of running back, it's Washington. Mm-hmm. And they have the most important position in all of sports, the quarterback position. You go down the list, and receiver, offensive line, and that is a lot closer with the offensive line than we'd like to think, because UW won the Joe Moore Award, right? It should be like it's a runaway. Michigan's offensive line is damn good.
I'm excited for this game. I think it should be a good one.
Monday is going to be wall to wall. We'll get the Michigan perspective on this game coming up in hour number 2 as Austin Meek of The Athletic joins us at 1:15. This is Danny and Dusty on The Fan.